What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am finally going to be doing my list of my favorite movies that have come out in 2024. So a couple of things before I get started. I finally have everything set up to make videos here. It took a lot longer than I thought, but you know, life just kept getting in the way. I might change up the background, might leave it this way. Not sure, I'm still like kind of trying things out. Also, if you could probably notice that I haven't been making much videos yet this year, and I haven't really seen that many movies throughout the entire previous year, 2024. I haven't gone to the theater all that much. But out of the movies that I did see, I have managed to make a complete list. In fact, if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, I actually have 15 on my ranking this year. That's because the movies that I have seen have all been really good, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving certain ones out. There are a couple of them, obviously, that I did leave out. But out of the ones that I really wanted on the list, I feel like they deserve to be on the list, or at the very least honorable mentions. But besides all that, you guys know how lists goes. This is just my personal opinion. Let me know in the comment section at the end of the video how you would rank movies this year. What's your top favorite? What's your top 10, your top 15, 20, even your top 5? Let me know all of that in the comment section below. And before we get started with the main list, just like always every year, we got some honorable mentions. And those honorable mentions include The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Mean Girls, Lisa Frankenstein, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, and Monkey Man. Really enjoyed all those movies. It's just that the movies that are actually on my list, I enjoyed a lot more. You guys, again, know how it goes. So let's get started with number 15. And starting off this year, we have Twisters. I had a lot of fun with Twisters. I was unsure how a legacy sequel for Twisters was going to go, but then I learned that it was not necessarily a sequel, more of just like another one, which I appreciated. Nowadays with legacy sequels, we got to bring in the original characters. We got to make so many callbacks to the original movie. We got to have visual callbacks, musical callbacks, bring in random characters, random actors from the previous movie. We got to do all that shit. Not with Twisters. Twisters is just kind of like, let's just do our own thing. Let's have it feel familiar to the original Twister, but bring in new characters, new setting. Well, I don't know about new setting, but new characters, new everything, and let's just do our own thing. Sure, we'll have a little wink and nod here to the original, but let's not make that the main focus of the movie. And that's what I really enjoyed about it. I really like the new characters. The tornado scenes were great. I'm glad I saw this movie in IMAX. I will say, however, the 4K disc is a little disappointing with the sound, with the tornado sounds, but visual, picture-wise, it's really good. Sound-wise, it was a little disappointing. That's just a little side note I wanted to add. And I just really enjoyed this one. It could have been a little higher on my list, but I guess that just shows that I enjoyed a lot of other movies this year. Next on my list is A Quiet Place Day One. The first two Quiet Place movies I thought were terrific. I loved both of them so much, especially the second one. The second one was such a huge surprise. I didn't think the second one would be as good or even top the first one in any ways, but it definitely did. A Quiet Place Day One, I didn't like as much as A Quiet Place 1 and 2, but I still had a great time with this one. They're just bringing in so much new talent and so much new things to the series that's really cool to see. And it was cool to see a Quiet Place movie take place the day this actually happened. It's kind of a nice in-between movie before we get to A Quiet Place 3, which I think is going to be the last one, but I'm not entirely sure. But the characters in this one were pretty nice. I liked the setting. The monsters are still really cool, and I just like what they did with this one. Again, didn't like it as much as the first two, but still a pretty solid movie. Next up is Gladiator II, another one that I'm really glad I went out to the theater to see. This movie was so good. Not as good as the first one, but still a really, really solid sequel. I like how they didn't try to bring back Russell Crowe or Joaquin Phoenix. I know Russell Crowe was saying that he kind of really wanted to be in this one. He even wanted to go supernatural with it. Really, really glad they did not do any of that. No, what they did with this one, having it be focused on his son, I thought was a really wise idea. I like the I don't remember the actor's name. I didn't look him up, but I like the actor that plays him. Denzel Washington, I thought was phenomenal in this movie. He just grabs your attention every time he's on screen, and I really love that about not just his character, but Denzel in general. He just captivates the whole screen. The fight scenes were terrific. The visuals, while had obviously had more CGI than the original one, it still looked really big and epic and like had a giant scope to it, which is what you would want to see in a Gladiator movie. And yeah, I think with a sequel this far down the line from the original Gladiator movie, they did the best that they could with it, and Ridley Scott shows that he can still really direct a movie. I thought that this one was going to be a little higher up, but nevertheless, it is still on my list. Deadpool and Wolverine is easily the best comic book movie we got this year. We got some pretty bad comic book movies this year, like Madam Web, and I haven't seen Craven, but I heard it's bad, and I'm not even wasting my time with Venom, the whatever it's called. But Deadpool and Wolverine has definitely been the best comic book movie that we got this year, and sure, you could argue that this movie doesn't really have a story. It's just Deadpool and Wolverine going about trying to fix Deadpool's world with just a lot of cameos, a lot of actors coming back to play roles and twists and turns here and there. I've heard a lot of complaints that there's not really a story. It's just Deadpool and Wolverine doing things, which I get those criticisms, but at the end of the day, when you bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, you kind of want the focus to just be on Deadpool and Wolverine. At least that's what I wanted, and that's honestly what I got. The main plot of the movie, I can get why some people were upset that there wasn't really much to go off of, but it does a good enough job. And I like that this movie just commented on the oversaturation and the overwhelming, I guess, thought of just the multiverse, and how they just basically called it out by saying it's just overdone, it's not doing anything new. And I'm hoping that's Marvel kind of realizing that they're not really doing anything interesting with it anymore. They're just bringing in characters and different actors from previous movies that had nothing to do with the MCU. And while that stuff was good, while we were able to see it, it's just an over-reliance on it. And I like that this movie commented on it. This movie was also incredibly funny. I don't know if this is my favorite Deadpool movie, but it's definitely a contender for it. It was funny, had great action, the cameos were pretty great, and I just like what they did with this one. You could argue a bunch of nitpicky things. I don't fucking care. I really liked this one. At number 11, that just missed out on the top 10, is Wicked. Now, I'm not really that big of a musical person. I've liked some musicals my entire life. The original Willy Wonka, Rocket Man, obviously The Wizard of Oz. So I don't really get that excited for musicals. That just never been my cup of tea. But Wicked I was kind of interested in. It did look pretty interesting. And yeah, this movie was pretty great. I didn't know anything going into it about the play or the book, or really I didn't really know much of the songs before going into the movie. So I was pretty much going in it with fresh eyes, and I liked what they did with it. I liked what they did with Glinda and the witch. I don't even remember the witch's name, but I liked what they did with it. I'm not that big of a fan of Ariana Grande, but I do think that she did a pretty good job with this one. Her voice was amazing. She's got such a gorgeous voice. I'm just not really a fan of her as an actress. The girl who played the other witch, again, I don't really remember her name, I thought she was phenomenal. I know a lot of people are talking about Oscar nominations for Ariana Grande. Don't agree with that at all. I definitely don't agree with that. But the actress that plays the other witch, I can get behind that. I thought her performance was much better, and her voice, they picked such great singers for this movie. I really liked her voice in this, and I really liked the two of them together in this movie. And Jeff Goldblum as the wizard was just everything I wanted for it. Visual wise, the movie looks good. You could tell it's just a lot of green screens, which I know a lot of people are getting sick and tired of green screen stuff. I know I definitely am, being an over reliance on it. So there is a little bit of a fakeness to the backgrounds and the whole visual aesthetic, but it is pretty colorful and serves its purpose, I guess. I get being this world, it's hard nowadays to make practical sets and all that, but it can be done. I'm just going to say that. It can be done. So CGI is the easy answer, but, again, it did its purpose. But yeah, surprisingly, a musical that I really enjoyed, and I really want to see the second one now. Another big surprise for me was Alien Romulus. Now, I'm one of the few people that enjoyed Alien Covenant for the most part. I actually haven't seen it, now that I think about it. I haven't seen Alien Covenant since it came out in theaters back in 2017. You can watch my review. I'll put a link up somewhere. You can watch my old review for it. Just know that those thoughts and opinions aren't fully updated. I need to rewatch the movie and then form new opinions, but that video is what I thought of the movie at the time. But I remember really enjoying it. I know a lot of people didn't, but it's whatever. But Alien Romulus I was excited for, but curious because it's not Ridley Scott, it's not James Cameron. So I was wondering, like, what could be done left with the universe. And having this movie be a movie in between Alien and Aliens, I thought was a pretty cool idea. And this movie, I'm so glad went back to its horror roots. This movie feels more terrifying than the previous movies did. This movie went back to practical effects, which was a dream come true for me. I'm so tired of CGI shit everywhere now. I get it's an easy thing to do, but again, you can do things practically, and this movie did do things practically. Visually, it looks stunning. The acting, they got some really talented actors in here. The ending, not gonna spoil it, but it is a fucked up ending in my opinion. I did not see it coming at all, and I just loved every second of that ending. So yeah, Alien Romulus, it really did surprise me. And then I heard that they're making a TV show of Alien. Great. Because we don't have enough TV shows based off of big franchises, so whatever. At least this movie was good, and hopefully we'll get another movie out of it soon. Next up, we have Inside Out. This is one that I'm actually pretty disappointed about not seeing in theaters, but nevertheless, I guess I'm glad I just saw it. This movie is just as heartfelt, just as colorful, just as entertaining as the first one. I liked the fact that we see the girl in the movie, I don't remember her name, kind of going through a tougher time in school. She's becoming older, so more emotions are obviously going to be brought into the mix. I thought that was a really smart idea, and I liked seeing this new group of emotions kind of clash with the emotions from the previous movie. And with a concept like this, it could be so easy to just root for the emotion characters, not really give a shit about the human characters. The human characters could be, there, you'll see them every now and then, but no, they focus time on them. We get to know the human characters that these emotions are running, and you might think to yourself, well, yeah, it's their emotions, but again, it could be so easy to just put focus on just the emotions and not really develop the human characters at all, and they just balance that so perfectly. I really hope we get an Inside Out 3. If they keep up this quality, which it's Pixar, they're usually pretty good at keeping up quality, I'll take a ton more Inside Out movies. Didn't think I'd like this one as much as I did the first one, but I really loved it. Next is Civil War, and this one, again, surprised me. I didn't know what to think of this one when I saw the trailer. It's an A24 movie. A24 has a pretty good track record. I've liked everything that I've seen of theirs. But I liked how real this movie felt. It felt like it could exist in this world, and that's because it actually is based on real life stuff, or inspired by real life stuff, I should say. It's nice to see Kirsten Dunst in a movie again. I don't remember the last time I saw her in a movie, but it's nice that she's getting a little more attention now that she's gotten older, and she hasn't lost it. She does a really good job in this movie. Performance-wise, everyone was great in the movie, and A24, again, they know how to make a really good, intense movie. This movie does borderline on intense. There's one scene that I'm not going to give away that I was just watching it, and I got a little nervous watching it. It made me uneasy because I wasn't sure. I had a feeling what was going to happen, but I wasn't sure how it was going to happen. So this movie did a really good job just being so intense and feeling so realistic. Really recommend this one. Next, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and this one I was actually nervous about. War for the Planet of the Apes, I thought, ended perfectly. We didn't need any more Apes movies. And now with this one being the first Apes movie under Disney's full control, was really not sure how they were going to handle it, but they really, really handled it well. This movie felt like it was a part of that universe, but its own thing, which is what it was trying to do, which is what it was supposed to do. And it did it incredibly well. I think it takes place a couple hundred years after War for the Planet of the Apes, so none of the original Apes characters from that trilogy comes back in this movie. We get whole new characters. The apes speak better English in this movie. There's a subplot with a human girl in the movie, and all of it I thought was great. The villain of the movie felt kind of Mad Maxy. In fact, I think Mad Maxy is what they were kind of going for. And it just worked. It really worked. Again, this one surprised me. I didn't think Disney would be able to handle an Apes movie that would be on par with that prequel trilogy that was owned before they took it over. It felt just as intense, just as brutal, just as realistic, in as much of a realistic sense as you can get with, apes in this situation. I haven't seen... What was it called? The Blu-ray has the raw cut, and I haven't watched it yet. If you have seen it, can you let me know if there's any differences in it, because I am interested in it. But I haven't even opened this up to watch the 4K yet. But I'm curious to know what difference that has with the theatrical cut. But either way, go see this one. If you're, again, that type of person that's like, I don't know about another Apes movie, no, give this one a chance. I was a similar way too, but they really did a good job with it, and I want to see more now. Next up is Maxine, the conclusion of this X trilogy that Ty West started. X was a big surprise. It came out in 2022, which was the same year as the most recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I remember saying it's sad that that movie was a better Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie than the actual Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie we got. You can check out my review wherever I put it. And then Pearl was also a really big surprise. I actually don't remember if I reviewed Pearl or not. But either way, I loved both of them. So I was excited for Maxine ever since I saw that end credit scene. I was really, really excited for it. And it delivered. It delivered on everything, in my opinion. I didn't quite love it as much as the first two, but it's still very similar to A Quiet Place Day 1. Even though I didn't love it as much as the other two, it still delivered on everything I was hoping it would do. Just like in the previous two movies, Mia Goth is phenomenal in this movie. This is actually the first one of this trilogy that has bigger name actors in it. There's Elizabeth Debicki, Kevin Bacon, Lily Collins, Michelle Monaghan. These are all actors that I wouldn't have expected to be in this movie, with it being an A24 movie. They tend to go for lesser known stars with the occasional big name in it or up and coming name in it. But yeah, I was surprised to see that this movie had some pretty big names in it that have been in a lot of other stuff before. I just want to also mention that this 4K was a pain in the ass for me to find when it first came out. I couldn't find it anywhere in stores, and I was eventually going to settle on the Blu-ray, but finally someone, I think it was Barnes and Noble? No, Walmart. Walmart finally got them in stock, and I snatched it up, and yeah, this was hard to find for a while at first, so I'm glad I eventually did get the 4K, because that 4K looks phenomenal. This movie just oozes 1980s, because I think that was the vibe they were going for in this one, 1980s. And yeah, as a conclusion to the trilogy, I thought it worked pretty well. Again, didn't like it as much as X or Pearl, but still a very, very solid movie. Home stretch, guys. We're almost there. We are at the top 5, and starting with the top 5 is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Now, I know the story of Christopher Reeve for the most part. I know about the basics of it. It was interesting having my girlfriend watch this with me, who didn't really know much about Christopher Reeve's story. And man, is this movie a tearjerker. If you're gonna watch this, keep tissues with you, because even someone like me that knows the basics of the story, this movie got me to tear up a few times. It got me to choke up. It's very real with how it tells his story. We see interviews from his kids that go into great detail about what it was like having him as a father at this stage of his life. It sounded really rough. The movie doesn't hold back on details of what either was going through his head or what was probably going through his head. The biggest moment that was a tearjerker for me, and I'm not going to get too much into it because I feel like you should see it yourself, is a moment with Robin Williams giving a speech. That's all I'm really going to say. And as soon as I saw that, it it really punched me in the guts. I almost like broke down crying at that point because I forgot that him and Robin Williams were best friends. And there's a heartbreaking line where someone says, if Christopher Reeve was still around, Robin Williams will probably still be around too. And that got me too. Yeah, but this movie just, it's so sad, but it's so worth it. It's such an inspiring story, such a sad story to listen to. It is worth watching. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm saying that it's really sad. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to watch something sad. It's worth watching even though it's so sad. So take the time, give it a watch. You're going to be happy that you did. Okay, let's break the sadness a little bit with my number 4, and my number 4 is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I am so glad that this movie has finally come out. We got word of a Furiosa movie like all the way back in like 2016 after Fury Road came out, and it took so long. It took 9 years for us to get a new Mad Max movie, and having it be about Furiosa, one of the best things in Fury Road, I thought was really good. And I thought was even better that they casted Anya Taylor-Joy as the young Furiosa. She killed it in this movie. I loved Chris Hemsworth as the villain. George Miller, he's gotten a lot older, but he can still pack a huge punch when it comes to action movies. It's just as stunning to look at as Fury Road was. It's just as action-packed as Fury Road was. These movies just keep getting better with each entry, and hopefully soon we can see another Mad Max movie. It's supposed to be titled The Wasteland. I've been hearing that title for a while. Hopefully we get that soon. I know Tom Hardy's getting older, so if they want to make that, they should probably get a move on it because Tom Hardy's getting up there in age, so is Charlize Theron. But we got this one this year, and it was great. I'm not paying attention to the stupid feminist bullshit comments people were making of it. Throw that shit out. It's none of that stuff. This movie was so freaking good. If you love action movies, you love this franchise, see Furiosa if you haven't already. At number 3, we have the movie that I actually did declare probably my favorite movie until I actually made this list and thought about it a lot more. But that movie is A Complete Unknown. Musical biopics have gotten, as they've gotten more popular, they've become more generic in a sense. They come off more as Wikipedia pages of said musician's life, with the occasional song here and there. Sometimes the actor will do the singing, sometimes they'll just play the actual song. But past examples, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, Elvis, I Want to Dance with Somebody, are full of hits and misses. I didn't really care for Bohemian Rhapsody. I enjoyed parts of it, but I don't care for it that much. Rocket Man, I really loved. Elvis, I really enjoyed. And I actually haven't seen I Want to Dance with Somebody. I guess Respect is another one. Haven't seen that one either yet. But musical biopics, they go about the basics, really. A Complete Unknown felt like the big step in the new direction of how to take musical biopics. Sure, there's things that hardcore Bob Dylan fans would be like, oh, I knew about that, or I knew about that, but it felt like they were trying not to fall in the musical biopic cliche. Timothée Chalamet, phenomenal. He kills it as Bob Dylan. He sounds like him, he looks like him, he sings the songs so incredibly well, he plays the guitar incredibly well. I didn't feel like I was watching Timothée Chalamet play Bob Dylan. I felt like I was watching Bob Dylan. Same can be said about Monica Barrero playing Joan Baez. She was terrific, and if that was actually her singing, she's got a gorgeous singing voice. Edward Norton as Pete Seeger, Boyd Holbrook, I think that's how you say his name, playing Johnny Cash. There's musical artists in this movie that are all casted pretty well. And rather than focusing on the entire life of Bob Dylan, it's just focused on one specific important part of his life, the part of his life when he was becoming more of like the new folk guy in folk music, to becoming the legend of Bob Dylan, the songwriting legend of Bob Dylan, that very controversial period in folk music in his life, and they chose to make that the focus. And I thought that was a very smart move, because that's when Bob Dylan really became the big songwriting legend that he's known for now. Performance-wise was terrific. James Mangold, this is his first movie since Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and he is still a great director. I've liked or loved everything I've seen of his, so I had no doubts that he was going to make another great movie with this. If you haven't seen A Complete Unknown, go see it. It's still in theaters. At number 2, my runner-up for this past year is Nosferatu, the best horror movie that came out this year. This movie was refreshing to see because it's not horror cliche tropes that some horror movies are kind of guilty for the last handful of years. It's not another Halloween movie, another Scream movie, another Jason movie, even though you could say we haven't had a Jason movie in a long time, so that really doesn't count. But you know what I mean. It's not another sequel with a big horror icon that we have. Sure, I liked the new Halloween trilogy. I've liked what the new Scream movies have done, and I'm really excited for Scream 7. But it's nice to see a remake of a classic horror character that hasn't really had like anything new going on with it for like a very, very long time, but a remake treated with respect, if you ask me. It honors what the original is while still being its own thing. And this movie is both disturbing, gross, and actually kind of scary. It's hard for horror movies nowadays to scare me, because considering they're just like jump scare after jump scare. You know, you go down a dark hallway or something, and then something just jumps up out of you with a loud noise like that. There's stuff like that in this movie too, but it's more atmospherical with how it scared me. It's more uneasy, more creepy imagery, and that's what I loved about it. And having this be a period piece, I thought was also a good idea. I really didn't want to see a modern retelling of Nosferatu where everyone's on their phones and the internet digital age and stuff like that. No, this movie made it feel old but timeless at the same time, if that makes sense. It was really creepy. I really enjoyed it. It could be a slow burn horror, so if slow burn isn't really your thing, you could see this movie as boring. I didn't think it was boring at all. I really liked what they did with this, and Robert Eggers, he just keeps impressing me with every movie he's done. And now at number 1, my favorite movie of 2024 is Dune Part 2. It didn't feel fair putting Dune Part 2 anywhere lower on the list, considering I like this one a lot more than the first one, and I gave the first one the number 1 spot in 2021. But I also gave it the number 1 spot because this movie just deserves it. It's visually gorgeous to look at. Like, yeah, obviously there's a lot of CGI in it, but it's so seamless. It blends in so perfectly well. You feel like you're a part of this world. The characters, you just get behind all these characters throughout the whole movie. Again, another Timothée Chalamet movie. This guy is really someone to watch out for. Zendaya is also great in it. Javier Bardem, Rebecca Ferguson. They're all everyone that was still in the previous movie came back for this one, and they're just great. The new characters, Christopher Walken, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, they're all perfectly casted in this movie. Denis Villeneuve, you can tell, has a love for this universe, has a love for the books, and he's just making them, he's doing the impossible and adapting them properly for theaters. I'm really excited for Dune Messiah, and I'm so glad I picked up the Steelbook when it came out. I ended up having to pay full price for this, but it was worth it because I just want to give a shout out to that Steelbook. Look at that. That's just gorgeous. Haven't watched the 4K yet, but I assure you it's probably nothing short of amazing. So if you, for some reason, still haven't seen Dune Part 2, it was a big box office hit. Go check it out. It really bridges the story of the first one perfectly well, and it just feels like one big epic story now. So that is it, guys. That is my list of my top 15 favorite movies of 2024. I know I didn't do many videos this past year, but one of my New Year's resolutions for this year is to do more videos, to go to the movie theater more often. Maybe I'll do more movie reviews. I know I said a while ago that I was kind of going away from doing individual movie reviews, but I still want to make a point to go see new movies, maybe do an occasional movie review here and there if I really enjoyed a movie and I really got excited, wanted to talk about it. So this year I'm really going to try harder to make more videos now that things are kind of settled now, not just with here, but in my new apartment and everything. So that's it, guys. Thank you as always for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section what your favorite movies are from this past year, 2024. And as always, again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like and share it. Subscribe right here if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, take care.